NBA this season, I feel like we sort of had one of those particular growing pains where it's like some of the people that are coming in and watching the sport and are fans of the sport feel like maybe they're there for a weird reason. And now they've found sort of maybe one player to hyper-fixate on that they feel stands at odds with what a WNBA player is in their mind.
Katie Nolan finally voiced what many have been thinking for a long time. What makes it even more intriguing isn't only her message, but the setting where she chose to deliver it. She said it on Sue Bird's podcast. The very same Sue Bird who oversees USA Basketball's women's program. The same platform that has been quietly hosting these discussions for months now, repeatedly circling back to the exact same conclusion. Lately, the blame has been pushed onto new fans, but there's a bigger issue no one seems willing to confront. Katie Nolan's media career, in particular, has largely been shaped by repeated missteps. ESPN invested in her, handed her multiple shows, and each one ultimately failed to gain traction. Now she's operating independently, popping up occasionally wherever she can secure a booking. So when someone with that kind of history begins lecturing the very fan base that helped pull the WNBA back from the brink of irrelevance, it's worth taking a step back and questioning what's really going on here.
It just feels like it's hate being disguised as love that they want to have against the rest of the league. And we sort of had this moment where the rest of the fans had to go like, you paid the same money for your ticket and you being here is also helpful to the sport. And that's a really difficult thing to do. They had no sort of reverence for the fact that like, buddy, this conversation's been going on without you for years and years.
That phrase alone is telling, and it deserves to be broken down because it exposes how longtime WNBA fans truly see this moment. The implication is that supporting a single player is somehow invalid. That appreciating Caitlin Clark's skill set, her shooting range, court vision, and rare ability to generate offense in ways the league has never experienced, is considered a weird motivation for watching basketball. But if we're going to label things as weird, let's be honest about what actually qualifies. For nearly 27 years, the WNBA built a fan base that, based on viewership data, often appeared more invested in off-court storylines, relationships, and drama than the on-court product itself. On a strong night, games attracted roughly 300,000 viewers. Seats went unfilled, arenas looked empty, and the league reportedly lost around $10 million annually, staying afloat largely through NBA subsidies. Then Caitlin Clark shows up, and everything changes almost overnight. Games suddenly draw 3 to 4 million viewers. Ticket prices for Indiana Fever matchups explode, quadrupling in some markets. Opposing arenas sell out the moment Indiana comes to town. Yet somehow, according to Katie Nolan, those fans are supposedly watching for weird reasons.
I hate that we have to go through people demanding certain actions from fan bases. People who have been following the WNBA through their drowning period, feeling better than the newer fans coming in because a certain somebody shined a light on the league, because a certain somebody is heads and shoulders above everything else we've seen in the league, because a certain somebody captivates people's imaginations, a certain somebody elevates.
This is the uncomfortable truth that many people would rather ignore. Caitlin Clark's individual fan base is, on its own, larger than the entire traditional WNBA audience combined. We can see this clearly by looking at what unfolded in year 2. The league expanded its national TV presence, added more streaming access, secured stronger time slots, and created every possible structural advantage to capitalize on the momentum from Clark's rookie season. Yet overall viewership rose by just 6%. That's not the kind of surge you'd expect if the league itself were the main attraction. That modest increase is what happens when a single player's following is doing most of the heavy lifting. Outside of her games, the baseline numbers barely budged. Teams like the Atlanta Dream, Dallas Wings, and Washington Mystics continue to draw the same thin crowds they always have when Indiana or Iowa isn't part of the matchup.
Here we go.
During the WNBA this season, I feel like we sort of had one of those particular growing pains where it's like some of the people that are coming in and watching the sport and are fans of the sport feel like...
I'm not fans of the sport. I'm going to speak for myself. I'm not a fan of the WNBA. I'm a fan of Caitlin Clark. One more time. I'm not a fan of the WNBA. I'm a fan of Caitlin Clark. You call that toxic? I don't care. You call it part of the dark side? I represent that proudly. Let's go on.
Maybe they're there.
Pay close attention to how she chooses to frame this next argument. She claims everyone paid the same price for their tickets, but that's demonstrably untrue. It's such a clear misrepresentation that it exposes just how far removed some commentators are from the real business mechanics of the WNBA. A standard regular season ticket for an Atlanta Dream home game sits around $50. When the Indiana Fever arrive, that identical seat suddenly jumps to roughly $200. Minnesota Lynx tickets average near $70, but once Caitlin Clark is in the building, those prices soar to about $250 for the exact same view. Indiana Fever season tickets became the most expensive in the league almost overnight, and it had nothing to do with the team suddenly becoming elite. They won 20 games during Clark's rookie season after winning just 13 the year prior. The spike in pricing wasn't about team performance. It was about one player. So no, Katie, Fever fans are not paying the same as everyone else. They're paying 3 to 4 times more, and they're doing so willingly because they know they're watching something truly special unfold.
Glazing over these players. Don't care about basketball, but care about the drama. Don't care about basketball, but care about, oh, she's in a relationship with her, and she's in a relationship with her, and ooh, she looks so good, and ooh, she looks so good. That's the weird reason that I've noticed that a lot of WNBA fans, not really fans of the basketball, they're fans of the the idea of getting with these chicks that are playing basketball. That's the weird reason.
That line says more than she probably intended. In a single sentence, it perfectly captures the gatekeeping mindset at play, the belief that enduring the WNBA's toughest years somehow grants moral ownership over how the sport should be enjoyed today. But if that's the argument, then those years deserve a closer, more honest look. From 1997 through 2023, the WNBA averaged roughly 400,000 viewers per national broadcast. In-arena attendance hovered near 6,000 fans per game. Teams were folded, franchises disappeared, and television partners constantly shifted, often pushing games onto secondary or hard-to-find networks. Throughout all of that, where was Katie Nolan's passionate coverage of the league? Where were the long-form pieces, the recurring segments, the public advocacy? She spent years at ESPN. She had access, influence, and major platforms. Yet the WNBA was absent from her content mix, not because of malice, but because it wasn't part of anyone's media strategy at the time. The simple truth is the audience wasn't there, until Caitlin Clark arrived and made that audience impossible to ignore.
Player in a way that actually just feels like it's hate being disguised as love that they want to have against the rest of the league. And we sort of had this moment where the rest of the fans had to go like, you paid the same money for your ticket, and you being here is also helpful to the sport.
Well, let's be fair here. Indiana Fever fans don't pay the same amount of money for their ticket as other fans do. The ticket price to get to an Indiana Fever game, got news for you. A lot more expensive than...
What truly complicates this situation is Sue Bird's position in all of it. She isn't simply a podcast host facilitating casual discussions. She also leads the women's side of USA Basketball, an official role that carries real influence over who represents the country on the international stage. And on her platform, she has allowed, without meaningful pushback, a narrative to take hold that paints Caitlin Clark's fan base as toxic, as if they're supporting the sport for the wrong reasons. The suggestion being reinforced is that admiration for one player somehow masks resentment, that enthusiasm equals hostility in disguise. Consider the implications of that framing. The individual with substantial input on Olympic roster selections is endorsing the idea that the player who attracts the most fans, sells the most tickets, and generates the greatest revenue is not an asset to the sport, but a problem. Think back to the Paris Olympics roster decision. Caitlin Clark was left off the team despite being the biggest draw in women's basketball. The official reasoning centered on experience and roster balance. But after months of Sue Bird's podcast repeatedly hosting conversations about Clark's fan base being an issue, about new fans disrespecting league history, and about the need to rein them in, it's fair to ask whether that decision was truly based on basketball alone.
You for years and years and years, and now you come in here and just think that you can, because you love this one player, and this one player is very good, she's very, very good, and like, I would love to just openly love them. Those are the types of moments that as a women's sports fan, I like really bristle.
And Sue Bird platforming this nonsense, it's just nasty work. Sue Bird platforming this, co-signing this in silence, nasty work. Sue Bird being in charge of the USA basketball team and doing this as well.
There's an unspoken issue here that Katie Nolan carefully skirts around when she criticizes fans for fixating on a single player who doesn't align with her idea of what a WNBA star should look like. So what is she really implying? Caitlin Clark is straight. She's in a public relationship with a man. She's white. Her game is built on skill, shooting, and precision rather than raw physicality. She's Midwestern, generally reserved off the court, and she stays clear of the constant social media drama that fuels much of the league's online ecosystem. And for a noticeable segment of the WNBA's long-established fan base, that's the real issue. Not her talent. Not her impact. Not the attention, revenue, and visibility she's bringing to the league. The problem is that she doesn't fit the cultural image the league has spent decades shaping and reinforcing. The WNBA has proudly been the most openly LGBTQ-friendly professional sports league in the United States, and that representation genuinely matters. It deserves recognition. But somewhere along the way, parts of the fan base began treating identity as the primary driver of fandom rather than the basketball itself, the on-court product, the personalities, the rivalries, the drama, and the off-court storylines that surround the game.
Sport the women are planning on spending thousands of euros to travel across the pond to catch a game in the US. Spending EUs and shipping costs. Supporting multiple players. It's hate disguised as love. God forbid people love one player in particular and not the entire workforce of every single team in the league. Yeah, God forbid normal fans be normal fans. People grew up on fans of Michael Jordan. Were people throwing pitchforks because you didn't like Isaiah Thomas and the Bad Boys Pistons too? No, nobody threw a fucking fit about it. Did people throw a fit that you didn't like Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, and the Supersonics? No, nobody gave a rat's ass. But it's an issue now. Because the jealousy, the victimhood, the we want to be accepted. It's nasty, nasty, nasty business. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I appreciate all the support. Like the video, comment, subscribe.
This is what makes the entire conversation so exasperating to watch. At a moment when the WNBA is seeing historic, unprecedented growth, the response from voices like Katie Nolan's is to scrutinize how that growth is taking place. New fans are being told they must earn legitimacy by caring about players they don't organically connect with. But that expectation doesn't exist anywhere else in sports. No one ever insisted that Michael Jordan fans also passionately support the Utah Jazz. LeBron James fans were never required to equally care about every small market team he dominated along the way. Tom Brady followers weren't told they had to show the same enthusiasm for the Jets or the Dolphins. Sports fandom has always been tribal by nature. You attach yourself to a player, a team, or a style of play that speaks to you, and you emotionally invest in their success. Sometimes that means rooting aggressively against rivals. Sometimes it means tuning out games that don't involve your favorite player at all. That's not toxic, it's normal. That's how every successful sports league in history has been built. Yet the WNBA, through voices like Katie Nolan's, is attempting to impose a completely different standard, one that no other major sport has ever demanded from its fans. The message being pushed is clear and uncompromising: you're expected to care about everyone. You're supposed to appreciate the entire league, honor its history, respect the struggle, and embrace every player who came before. And if you don't, if you're here primarily for Caitlin Clark, then you're framed as part of the problem. That isn't growth. That's textbook gatekeeping. and it's the exact mindset that kept the league small, stagnant, and struggling for more than 2 decades. The comment section under that podcast clip reflects that frustration in real time. It's relentless. Viewers are calling out Katie Nolan's failed media career. They're highlighting the contradiction of Sue Bird hosting these discussions while simultaneously running USA Basketball. They're also pointing out how the same voices demanding universal respect for all players stay silent when Caitlin Clark is subjected to open hostility from other players and their fan bases. Because that's the side of this debate that never gets addressed. When Angel Reese's supporters swarm Caitlin Clark online, celebrate every missed shot, or create entire accounts dedicated to downplaying her achievements, where's Katie Nolan's essay on that toxicity? When Kennedy Carter body-checked Caitlin Clark away from the ball and fans openly cheered it, where was the outrage about hate masquerading as passion? When Caitlin was left off the Olympic roster and large portions of WNBA Twitter celebrated the decision, where was the concern about problematic fan behavior? The narrative being pushed is unmistakable. Caitlin Clark's fans are framed as the issue. Their enthusiasm is treated as suspicious. Their emotional investment is questioned. Their presence is merely tolerated rather than genuinely welcomed. And all the while, Sue Bird, holding a position of real authority within USA Basketball, sits there nodding along, giving this framing a platform, amplifying it, and never once challenging the idea that the player driving unprecedented attention to the sport is somehow a source of controversy instead of the long-awaited solution to decades of irrelevance. So what's actually going on beneath the surface? The WNBA's long-standing fanbase is experiencing a kind of cognitive dissonance. For years, the league's struggles were explained away as the result of sexism, underinvestment, and a media landscape unwilling to give women's sports a fair opportunity. Many fans built their identity around being the loyal ones, the people who stayed through empty arenas, low ratings, and constant uncertainty. Then Caitlin Clark arrives, and suddenly those explanations don't fully hold up anymore. Media companies are competing aggressively for broadcast rights. Sponsors are lining up in record numbers. Arenas are selling out night after night. The investment exists. The attention is undeniable. The money is flowing. But it isn't flowing evenly across the league. It's centered on one player. And that reality is deeply uncomfortable for those who defined themselves by enduring the lean years, because it raises an unsettling possibility that the league's long struggles may not have been caused entirely by external forces after all. There's an uncomfortable possibility that no one wants to seriously confront. Maybe the product simply wasn't compelling enough. Maybe the overall skill level didn't consistently captivate casual viewers. Maybe the style of play failed to entertain a broader audience. Caitlin Clark's rise forces that reckoning into the open. And instead of embracing it, instead of celebrating the arrival of a truly transcendent talent capable of lifting the entire sport, voices like Katie Nolan's attempt to turn it into a problem. They add qualifiers. They attach asterisks. They argue that this growth is happening the wrong way, driven by the wrong fans, for the wrong reasons. But the WNBA no longer has the privilege of being selective about who shows up. The league has never been profitable or fully self-sustaining. For 27 years, it has survived largely because the NBA covered the losses. And with each year of declining attendance and stagnant viewership, that arrangement became harder to defend. Caitlin Clark didn't just change the narrative. She changed the financial equation almost overnight. All of a sudden, the WNBA has leverage. Overnight, there's a legitimate business case for expansion, stronger television contracts, and higher player salaries. And that shift didn't happen because of some abstract collective momentum. It happened because of one player, someone so talented, so watchable, so undeniably magnetic that she's pulling the entire league into relevance, whether everyone is comfortable with it or not. Yet the response from voices like Katie Nolan's, amplified on platforms run by people like Sue Bird, isn't gratitude or clarity. It's condescension. Fans who made this surge possible are being lectured, told they're engaging with the sport incorrectly, and made to feel that their enthusiasm is somehow less valid than those who endured decades of half-empty arenas. That attitude isn't just insulting, it's counterproductive. And it exposes a deep misunderstanding of how sports leagues actually build lasting success. So let me be completely honest about my position. I'm not a WNBA fan in the traditional sense. I'm a Caitlin Clark fan. I watch her games. I buy her jerseys. I follow her career closely. And if she retired tomorrow, I probably wouldn't tune into another WNBA game. That doesn't make me toxic. It doesn't put me on some dark side of fandom. It makes me a normal sports fan with limited time and specific interests. And there are millions of people just like me. We're the reason the WNBA is finally becoming viable. We're the reason salaries are rising. We're the reason arenas are upgrading facilities and teams are expanding staff. Katie Nolan can label that however she wants. Sue Bird can platform whoever she chooses. But the numbers don't lie. At this point, the imbalance is obvious. The WNBA depends on Caitlin Clark's fans far more than Caitlin Clark's fans depend on the WNBA. And until the league's gatekeepers come to terms with that reality, until they stop treating the sport's greatest catalyst as a problem to be controlled instead of an opportunity to be embraced, these same exhausted debates will keep resurfacing. 2 years in, and the conversation is still stuck on whether new fans are somehow worthy. 2 years in, and people are still arguing about whether following one player is a legitimate way to enjoy the sport. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark continues to sell out arenas, shatter viewership records, and strengthen the business case for why this league matters and deserves to thrive. The real question isn't about the fans. It's whether the WNBA's establishment will ever recognize what's right in front of them, or if they'll keep biting the hand that's feeding them until there's nothing left to hold on to. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Are new fans really the problem, or is it the people who keep telling new fans they don't belong? And if you're tired of this narrative too, hit that subscribe button, because we're going to keep calling out this gatekeeping every single time it shows up.